Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. What I'm about to share with you today might be the most shocking Sussex story we've covered yet. Multiple insider sources are now confirming that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are facing what's being described as the most serious strain on their marriage to date. We're not talking about the usual tabloid speculation here, we're talking about specific, detailed reports from multiple credible sources all saying the same thing. Harry and Meghan are having deeply emotional arguments that threaten to tear them apart, geographically and emotionally. The issue: Harry is desperate to return to the UK to reconcile with his dying father, King Charles. Meghan is absolutely refusing to go back, and sources say that if neither of them is willing to compromise, there is a real concern among those close to them that this single, unresolved question could evolve into the breaking point for their relationship. Could 2026 be the year Harry and Meghan finally announce their divorce? Let's dive into everything we know about what's really happening behind closed doors in Montecito. The UK return dispute. They're broken in a lot of ways. The argument that's destroying their marriage. According to multiple sources speaking to Radar Online, Geo News and other outlets, Harry and Meghan are locked in an ongoing dispute that has become impossible to resolve. And it all centres on one question: should Harry return to the UK more frequently, potentially bringing his family with him? On the surface, this might sound like a simple disagreement about travel plans, but sources say it goes much deeper than that. The tension between them isn't rooted in a breakdown of affection or commitment, an insider told Radar Online. It's driven by two very different anxieties pulling them in opposite directions. Another source put it even more bluntly: Harry and Meghan are broken in a lot of ways, and this drive to return to Britain could truly break them. Let that sink in for a moment. Broken in a lot of ways. These aren't my words. These are the words of someone close to the couple describing the current state of their marriage. Harry's growing fixation. So what's driving Harry's desperate need to return to the UK? According to sources, it's primarily about his father, King Charles. Harry has become increasingly fixated on the idea of being back in Britain more often, a source revealed. He brings it up repeatedly, conscious of his father's declining health and feeling that opportunities for reconciliation are slipping away. The insider continued, in his mind, the coming year carries a real sense of urgency and consequence. Remember, King Charles was diagnosed with cancer in early 2024. While his treatment has been going well, and he recently announced he's reducing his treatment schedule for 2026, the reality is that Charles is 77 years old and facing a serious illness. For Harry, who has been estranged from his father for years now, time is running out. He made a brief visit to see Charles at Clarence House in September 2025, and sources say that meeting only intensified his desire to repair their relationship. His sense of yearning has grown stronger as he looks back on the years he has largely spent apart from his father, a source explained. There is a deep regret about missed time and conversations, and he views spending more time in the UK as a way to repair some of that emotional distance. The children factor. But it's not just about Harry's relationship with his father, it's also about his children's relationship with their grandfather. Harry feels strongly that their children should grow up understanding where he comes from and having a real relationship with their grandfather, an insider told Radar Online. Think about that for a moment. Archie is 6 years old, Lilibet is 4. These children have spent virtually no time in the UK. They barely know their royal relatives. They have no real connection to Harry's homeland or his family. For Harry, this must be heartbreaking. He grew up as part of the royal family, with all the privilege and pain that entailed. His children are growing up as Americans in California, disconnected from half of their heritage. Sources say Harry talks about the UK constantly and has become consumed with the idea that his children need to experience Britain and develop relationships with the royal family before it's too late. Meghan's absolute resistance. Now let's look at Meghan's side of this argument, and to be fair to her, her position is completely understandable. For her, the UK is bound up with some of the most stressful and painful periods of her life, a source told Radar Online. The idea of returning triggers memories of constant scrutiny and emotional strain, and she is deeply resistant to being drawn back into that atmosphere. Another insider elaborated, Meghan associates the UK with unhappiness, fear, and anxiety. She is equally determined not to be rushed back into a country she associates with pain, scrutiny, and unfinished business. Let's remember what Meghan experienced during her time as a working royal. She faced relentless media attacks, racist commentary, and what she and Harry have characterised as complete institutional failure to protect her. In the Oprah interview, Meghan revealed she had suicidal thoughts during her pregnancy with Archie. For Meghan, Britain isn't just a place she doesn't want to visit, it's a place that represents genuine trauma. Her instinct is to shield both herself and the children from experiences she worries could reopen painful chapters, a source explained. So from Meghan's perspective, Harry wanting to drag her and their children back to the place that caused her so much pain isn't just inconvenient, it's asking her to re-traumatise herself and potentially expose their children to the same hostile environment she experienced. The impossible position. This is where the situation becomes truly tragic. Both Harry and Meghan have legitimate, deeply felt positions. Neither is being unreasonable from their own perspective. Harry is caught in an agonising position, pulled between his commitment to his wife and children and a powerful sense of unfinished business from his earlier life, one source said. Think about Harry's dilemma. He loves his wife, he loves his children, he wants to protect them and honour Meghan's trauma, but he also loves his father, feels profound regret about their estrangement, and is watching the clock tick down as Charles ages and battles cancer. He can't be the husband Meghan needs without sacrificing his relationship with his father, and he can't be the son his father needs without traumatizing his wife. If neither of them is willing or able to compromise, there is a real concern among those close to them that this single, unresolved question could evolve into the breaking point for their relationship, which could see them finally file for divorce this year, a source warned. The Christmas escalation. According to reports, this dispute became particularly intense over the Christmas period and into the new year. Talks about returning to Britain became more frequent between Harry and Meghan over the Christmas period, a source revealed to Reality Tea. Can you imagine? Christmas is supposed to be about family togetherness, but for Harry and Meghan, it became another battlefield in their ongoing dispute about where home really is. Insiders say the arguments have become more emotional, more frequent, and more difficult to resolve. Neither party is budging, and the frustration on both sides is mounting. The issue of Britain has started to overshadow almost every decision they make, one source said. It's creating a sense of unease and frustration that's seeping into other areas of their relationship. The security battle, removing Harry's last excuse, Harry's legal victory. Now, here's where things get even more complicated. For years, Harry has had a built-in excuse for why he can't return to the UK more frequently: security concerns. After stepping back from royal duties in 2020, Harry lost his taxpayer-funded police protection. He's been fighting in UK courts ever since to have that protection reinstated, arguing that he and his family are at genuine risk without it. According to recent reports, Harry is now set to win his security battle. Multiple sources suggest that his armed security detail in the UK is likely to be reinstated following what was described as a stalker scare. On the surface, this sounds like good news for Harry, but from Meghan's perspective, this is a disaster. Meghan's worst fear. The security issue has been Meghan's shield. As long as Harry didn't have proper security in the UK, she had a perfectly reasonable excuse for why they couldn't return. It's not safe. But once that security is reinstated, that excuse evaporates, and according to sources, Meghan is deeply resistant to losing this protective barrier. Meghan's hesitation comes from a fear of what returning to Britain might demand of her personally and the emotional toll it could take, an insider explained. With the security issue potentially resolved, the only thing standing between Harry returning to the UK more frequently is Meghan's refusal, and that puts her in an incredibly difficult position. The compromise that seems impossible. Sources say the most likely compromise would involve Harry making more frequent solo trips to the UK while Meghan and the children remain in California. But even this compromise creates problems. If Harry is constantly flying back to Britain, sometimes for extended periods, what does that mean for their family life, for their marriage, for their ability to function as a couple? There is real frustration that something she believed was firmly in the past has once again become such a central and unavoidable point of contention in their lives, an insider revealed about Meghan's state of mind. And for Harry, making solo trips doesn't solve the core problem. He wants his children to know their grandfather. to understand their British heritage, to have a relationship with the royal family. Solo trips don't accomplish any of that. The staff exodus. They've essentially shuttered Archewell. James Holt's shocking departure. As if the marital strain wasn't enough, Harry and Meghan are also dealing with a professional crisis that's making everything worse. And the biggest blow came at the end of 2025, the departure of James Holt, their longest-serving aide and perhaps their most loyal supporter. Holt was there from the beginning. He was at Windsor Castle on Harry and Meghan's wedding day in May 2018. He followed them to California when they quit royal duties in 2020. He guided them through the Oprah interview, through Netflix, through every controversy and crisis. Newsweek described Holt as perhaps the only aide left who truly understood their experiences in the monarchy, having witnessed them firsthand. And now he's gone. On December 29, 2025, Holt announced he was stepping down as executive director of Archewell to return to London with his family. While the public statements from both sides were warm and appreciative, the timing and circumstances raised serious questions. The fifth communications chief in 5 years making matters worse, just days before Holt's announcement. Harry and Meghan lost their chief communications officer, Meredith Maines. She's stepping down after less than a year on the job. This marks the fifth key member of their publicity team to exit in the latter half of 2025 alone. Think about that for a moment. 5 senior communications staffers in 6 months. Doug Eldridge, founder of Achilles PR, told Fox News Digital, in virtually any context other than the final months of an outgoing administration, losing 5 senior-level comms advisors inside of a year is a bit abnormal. The departed staff include Meredith Maines, Chief Communications Officer, Charlie Gibson, Communications Staffer, Kyle Boulier, Communications Staffer, Emily Robinson, Communications Staffer, Ashley Hansen, Global Press Secretary, left in 2024. This pattern of staff turnover has fueled long-standing claims that Harry and Meghan can be difficult to work for. While the couple has consistently denied allegations of bullying staff, the numbers speak for themselves. People keep leaving. They've essentially shuttered Archewell. According to page 6, a source said bluntly, they've essentially shuttered Archewell. The Archewell Foundation has been rebranded as Archewell Philanthropies and is shifting from running its own programs to simply funding other organisations. This means some staff redundancies are inevitable, according to a Sussex spokesperson. 3 staff members have already been let go, including Kirsten Slevin, the Director of Programs and Operations, whose role carried a salary of $146,000. Here's the shocking part. Reports suggest Archewell has been reduced to essentially 1 remaining employee. 1. The charity has adopted what's called a fiscal sponsor model, which means its activities must now be approved by another organisation operating as its legal umbrella. This is a massive scaling back from their original vision. The financial crisis. Why all these cuts? The answer is simple. Money. Income from donations to the Archewell Foundation dropped from $5.3 million in 2023 to just $2.1 million in 2024. That's a decline of more than 60% in 1 year. Meanwhile, Archewell's expenses have ballooned to $5.1 million compared to just $1.25 million distributed in grants. Think about that ratio. They're spending over $5 million to give away $1.25 million. That's not sustainable. The charity spent more than $1 million on programmatic strategic support to outside agencies, including PR firm M&C Saatchi. Meanwhile, actual grants to the regions they toured were shockingly modest, just $10,000 to Sub-Saharan Africa and $8,310 to South America, despite high-profile tours to Nigeria and Colombia. After an initial $13 million donation in 2021, likely from the Oprah interview windfall, contributions have never returned to that level. The money is drying up. What this means for their marriage. The professional collapse of Archewell adds enormous stress to an already strained marriage. Financial pressure is one of the leading causes of divorce, and Harry and Meghan are facing serious financial concerns. Their Netflix deal is under scrutiny after several projects underperformed. Meghan's With Love, Meghan show received mixed reviews. There's pressure to deliver something that actually resonates with audiences, hence the reported Diana movie project. Sources told Page 6 there's significant uncertainty surrounding their production business, with concerns that more employees may leave if there is no renewal of Markle's show. In other words, if Netflix doesn't renew Meghan's show, their entire production operation could collapse, leading to even more staff departures and financial strain. The post-divorce book rumour, Meghan's alleged publisher discussions, adding fuel to the divorce speculation. Reports emerged in 2025 that Meghan had been in discussions with publishers about a post-divorce book. According to sources who spoke to Star magazine, Meghan allegedly explored the market for a book detailing her life post-divorce. Now, a source close to the situation tried to downplay this, noting it was a general discussion about life after divorce to gauge if publishers would theoretically be interested in it. But here's the thing. Why would Meghan be having even theoretical discussions about a post-divorce book if divorce wasn't at least on her radar as a possibility? Publishers would absolutely be interested in a Meghan Markle divorce memoir. It would be an instant bestseller. The advance would likely be in the millions. From a purely business perspective, it makes sense that Meghan would want to know what that potential payday might look like. But the fact that she's even considering this as a possibility speaks volumes about where her head is at regarding her marriage. Meghan's public denial. To be fair, Meghan has publicly pushed back against the divorce rumours. In a recent interview with Marie Claire, she addressed speculation about her marriage directly. "He loves me so boldly, fully, and he also has a different perspective because he sees media that I wouldn't," she told the publication. "No one in the world loves me more than him, so I know he's always going to make sure that he has my back." She also spoke about Harry's childlike wonder and playfulness, saying, "I was so drawn to that, and he brought that out in me. That's translated into every part of our life. Even in business, I want us to play and have fun and explore and be creative." And in her New Year's Eve newsletter to As Ever customers, Meghan wrote about how she and Harry plan to celebrate together. "When the clock strikes midnight, we'll be celebrating right along with you. Glasses raised, bottles of bubbly popping, and confetti in the air." Harry's previous response. Harry has also addressed the divorce speculation before. At the New York Times Deal Book Summit in 2024, when asked about their frequent solo appearances, Harry quipped, "Because you invited me, you should have known." He then joked about the divorce rumours. "Apparently we've bought or moved house 10, 12 times. We've apparently divorced maybe 10, 12 times as well. So it's just like, what?" Reading between the lines. So what should we make of these public denials? Are they genuine, or are they protesting too much? Here's what we know. Harry and Meghan are absolutely facing serious marital strain over the UK return question. Multiple independent sources confirm this. The arguments are described as deeply emotional and threatening to tear them apart. At the same time, it's possible for both things to be true. They can genuinely love each other and be facing a fundamental incompatibility that might ultimately prove insurmountable. The question isn't whether Harry and Meghan love each other. The question is whether love is enough when two people have such fundamentally different needs and such traumatic associations with the choices they're being asked to make. The Meghan Panic Mode Report, the Aspen trip incident. In December 2025, Harry made a trip to Aspen, Colorado without Meghan. When he returned, sources say Meghan was in full panic mode. According to Star magazine, Meghan felt Harry was intentionally seeking distance from their family. An anonymous source said Meghan worried that Harry's solo trip was a sign he was pulling away, seeking space, possibly even testing what life might be like without her. For Meghan, who has already given up so much, her acting career, her independence, her relationship with her own family, the idea that Harry might be distancing himself must be terrifying. Harry's reported friends' concerns. There have also been reports that Harry's old friends are concerned about him. Some apparently believe he's become isolated, that Meghan has cut him off from his previous life and support system. While these reports are hard to verify and often come from hostile sources, the pattern of Harry losing touch with old friends is undeniable. He's not close with many of the people he was friends with before meeting Meghan. Whether that's Meghan's influence, Harry's own choice, or a natural consequence of moving to a different continent and completely changing his life is debatable. but it adds to the sense that Harry might be feeling trapped between two irreconcilable worlds, living increasingly separate lives. Multiple sources have noted that Harry and Meghan have been living increasingly separate lives professionally. Meghan is immersing herself back into Hollywood through her Netflix projects and As Ever lifestyle brand. She's focused on building her American identity as a lifestyle influencer and entrepreneur. Harry, meanwhile, has appeared less focused. He stepped back from his Centerbile charity amid reports of staff fallout. His various projects and ventures seem to lack the drive and purpose they once had. One source told Inquisitor, Meghan is immersing herself back into Hollywood again through her Netflix projects and As Ever lifestyle brand, whereas Harry has stood back from some of his duties. This professional divergence often precedes marital divergence. When couples start building separate lives, separate identities, separate futures, it becomes easier to imagine those futures without each other. Could divorce really happen in 2026? The warning signs. Let's be honest about what all the evidence suggests. We have multiple sources describing the most serious strain on their marriage to date, deeply emotional arguments that threaten to tear them apart, a fundamental disagreement with no apparent compromise in sight, financial pressures mounting as Archewell collapses, and Netflix projects underperform staff exodus, suggesting professional chaos, reports of Meghan in panic mode over Harry seeking distance, Meghan allegedly exploring post-divorce book options, Harry and Meghan building increasingly separate professional lives, public denials that might be more about protecting their brand than reflecting reality. These are serious warning signs. This isn't just tabloid speculation anymore. The 2026 urgency sources keep emphasizing that 2026 feels particularly urgent for Harry. With King Charles's declining health and the possibility of his security being reinstated, Harry sees this as potentially his last real opportunity to repair family relationships. But that urgency is precisely what threatens his marriage. The more desperate Harry becomes to return to the UK, the more threatened Meghan feels. If neither of them is willing or able to compromise, there is a real concern among those close to them that this single, unresolved question could evolve into the breaking point for their relationship, which could see them finally file for divorce this year, a source told Radar Online. What divorce would look like. If Harry and Meghan do divorce, it would be absolutely massive news, potentially the biggest royal story since Harry's mother Diana died. The custody battle over Archie and Lilibet would be particularly complex. Would they split time between California and the UK? Would Harry move back to Britain? Would the children be raised primarily in America? The financial settlement would also be significant. Harry brought substantial wealth to the marriage from his inheritance from Diana and the Queen Mother. Meghan had her own earnings from Suits and has built her brand since marrying Harry. How would all of that be divided? And the publicity would be intense. Both Harry and Meghan would face enormous pressure to tell their side of the story. Would we get competing memoirs, competing interviews, a media war between them? The alternative? Compromise. The only way this marriage survives is if both parties find a way to compromise. But what would that compromise look like? Perhaps Harry makes more frequent solo trips to the UK, spending time with his father and gradually reintroducing his children to Britain without forcing Meghan to return. Perhaps Meghan agrees to brief, carefully controlled visits to the UK for major family events, with strict security and media protocols in place. Perhaps they establish some kind of schedule where Harry spends significant time in Britain while Meghan focuses on her California-based projects, essentially living semi-separate lives. But all of these compromises require both parties to give up something fundamental. Harry would have to accept that his children won't have the British upbringing and royal relationships he wants for them. Meghan would have to accept that her husband needs to maintain connections to a place that traumatized her. Conclusion: the marriage on the brink. Where we stand as we enter 2026, here's the uncomfortable truth. Harry and Meghan's marriage is in serious trouble. This isn't about a lack of love. Sources consistently say the tension isn't rooted in a breakdown of affection. Harry and Meghan still love each other, but love isn't always enough. They're facing a fundamental incompatibility about where home is, about what family means, about how to balance past trauma with current needs, about how to raise their children. Harry is being pulled toward Britain by his dying father. his desire for reconciliation, and his wish for his children to know their heritage. Meghan is being pushed away from Britain by her trauma, her fear of re-exposure to hostile media, and her desire to protect herself and her children. These are two people who love each other but need incompatible things, and that's the most painful kind of relationship crisis, because there's no villain, no one to blame, just two people whose legitimate needs can't be satisfied simultaneously. The questions we're left with are Harry and Meghan headed for divorce in 2026? Honestly, based on everything we've discussed today, I think it's a real possibility. Not a certainty, but a genuine, serious possibility. Will Harry's security victory remove the last barrier to him returning to the UK more frequently? And if so, will that force the crisis to a head? Can they find a compromise that satisfies both of their needs? Or are those needs too fundamentally opposed? Will the financial collapse of Archewell and the professional pressures of their Netflix deal add breaking point levels of stress? Is Meghan seriously considering divorce as an option? Or were those post-divorce book discussions truly just theoretical explorations? What happens next? As we move through 2026, every public appearance by Harry and Meghan will be scrutinised. Every solo trip Harry makes to the UK will fuel speculation. Every time Meghan builds her American brand without Harry by her side will raise questions. The pressure on this marriage is immense. And the sad reality is that sometimes, even when two people love each other, external pressures and incompatible needs can destroy a relationship. Harry and Meghan weathered the storm of leaving the royal family. They survived the media attacks, the family estrangement, the public scrutiny. But this internal battle, this fundamental disagreement about where they belong and how to honour both their needs, might be the crisis they can't overcome. Final thoughts. I want to be clear, I'm not rooting for their divorce. Despite all the drama and controversy, Harry and Meghan are two people who fell in love, who have two young children together, who have been through extraordinary challenges as a couple. But I also can't ignore what multiple credible sources are saying. This marriage is under the most serious strain it's ever faced. The arguments are described as potentially relationship ending, and 2026 might be the year when Harry and Meghan have to make the devastating choice between staying together and honouring their individual needs. Only time will tell. But one thing is certain, 2026 will be a decisive year for the Sussexes, one way or another. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Harry and Meghan will divorce in 2026? Is compromise possible, or are their needs too incompatible? Should Harry sacrifice his relationship with his father to save his marriage? Should Meghan face her trauma and return to the UK for Harry's sake? Is there a solution that honours both of their needs? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. This is obviously an incredibly sensitive topic, so let's keep the discussion respectful even if we disagree. If you found this deep dive valuable, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any updates on this developing story. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.